Om Sadashiva Samarambam Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Om. So you were saying, Claudio, we stopped at that, but before we go into the big picture of Swami Paramarthananda, so let's see if we have any questions. Vedanta questions relate to our previous classes, if any.
I have a question about if we can only little clarifying about the difference between excretory system and expulsion system. Is that simply that excretory is the, how you can say, the excretion of the body?
Yeah, right? It's evacuation system.
Evacuation, and expulsion, it can be also death, for example.
It
not
could.
The expulsion of
it
could be death, for example.
One is related to digestion system. It digests, converting. The digestion is something very nice because it converts food into energy, and then it does convert food on different levels of energy, on the prana level and so on. Some of the food is converted into the prana level, and then it's going to serve for digestion, excretion, and circulation, and so on. Respiration system, and some of that energy, which is gained by the conversion of food into intelligent air, intelligent energy, is a different kind of energy, slightly different from the one for excretion, which is something different. The excretion is somewhat related to the digestion. Okay, so you have a way to digest, which digestion is, again, I'm repeating myself, is to converting physical material, living organism, which is food, into different levels of energy, and then some of this energy is going to go to become the digestion system. Some of that energy is going to be using on a different system, which is excretion, which seems to be connected with digestion because there is a connecting pipeline there. But there is another one using similar pipelines, meaning to say, but actually it uses many other pipelines because expulsion can happen through the evacuation, but can come through the throwing up, vomiting as well, can come through the skin.
Vomiting, yes.
And it's a different system that is going to also expel the subtle body from the physical body. So they seem to be connected, but there is a slight difference in the way they are designed, Does it make sense? It is the body's attempt to expel toxic or foreign elements from the body. I have a friend who did a kidney transplant, and it's a problem because the body keeps trying to attack it, to get rid of it, and then she has to take things to suppress her defense system, her immune system, And on the other hand, she needs a good system to protect against virus and COVID or whatnot. So it's a little trick, because the body wants to attack and expel things, and our how you say. I have been talking so much Portuguese that sometimes I have these things, The body our immune system, our defense system, immune system. Immune system, it's there to protect us. And this is another system, that it's said to be pretty much connected to the digestive system, because most of our immune system, our defense, is in digestion, they say. So we have these things. And then you put a kidney, which is a foreign element or organ. And then your system, your defense system, your immune system that is in your digestive area is also, try to get rid of that. But now you have to find a way to make your system, the immune system, change its mind and accept that new element as integral or as friendly, or you understand. So that is one of the biggest problems with transplants. So it's these systems, they all seem to be somewhat interconnected. It's the same, fundamentally it's the same vital, intelligently designed air that needs to do different functions. The same way the subtle body is one with different functions. So in the pranic, on the pranas, physiological autonomous system, there, what we have there, we have the vital air that is intelligent designed to fulfill different functions in the physical body. It's very close to the physical body. When you look at the chart, it's there in between the two, because it's going to, and it is amazing when we really think about that. How can air be programmed and designed to operate different systems? It is unbelievable. Well, creation is something amazing. So, and this expulsion system is active also at the time of death. So when all the other functions of this expulsion are just about taking unwanted things out of the body, until it decides that it's time to take something else out of the body, and it's no longer elements, chemical elements, but now it wants to take the subtle body altogether of the body, and then we know exactly what happened when Ishvara, when this intelligent design air that is there operating all these 5 physiological functions, and then they say, oh, it's time to quit, and then what they are going to do. So the same energy that is operating this machinery, it's required to pull, no longer to hold this machinery together and operate it, but it has to do a much subtler job, which is to pull the subtle body from the physical body. But the problem is that the subtle body, within the subtle body, we have the ego, we have the mind. And the mind has become accustomed to that physical body. And then what does the mind do? It clings to the physical body as always. It clings to the body on the conscious level, and it does so in the unconscious level as well. So that's why almost invariably we see that Ishvara has to put people in coma, to sleep, in order to do so. Otherwise, the ego it keeps clinging to the body and say, no, I'm not going to leave this body. The vital air is saying, no, it's time to quit. It's time to let go. Have you heard about these people who help people to let go when they are too much attached? People are in the death process, and there are these nurses or therapists that go, let go, and it's to help the mind, on the subconscious mind, to let go of that body, you know, and that is amazing. And then we can witness that, we can see it, huh? When the air, the vital air, this intelligent air, it just leaves. Hollywood is great to make beautiful deaths in which you will see the air comes out and does not go back. And then they had to cut the scene before the person dies of suffocation, holding the breath that needs to come out. So it is amazing. It is a mystery. It is, I mean, it's not a complete mystery, but the intelligence is something that the human intellect will never really come close to duplicate. Let's say now we are in the times that human intelligence, science is trying to be able to challenge God and say, no, we can make life as well. So good luck, huh? Excuse me, let me turn this one off. Scoop, just a moment, please. Okay. Any other question or any other insight? Let's say. So anybody that can offer something so that we can understand Ishvara better, understand the mind of the Lord, the Creator, because it is quite something. The last four organs are the inner organs called the Antakarana. In actuality, they represent four facets of a single organ, what we might think of as mind. So we call it mind, but technically it's easier for us to call it, it's difficult because if we call it the subtle body, and then we have to include the 5 organs of action, the 5 organs of reception, the 5 physiological systems, plus the mind, ego, intellect, and memory system. So if we call it subtle body, we get in trouble because the subtle body is more than just the functions of the intellect, you know, the inner functions, as they call the Antakarana, the inner functions, but there are other functions within the subtle body. So therefore, we call it, generally, we call it the mind. If we call it the intellect, we get into a little bit of trouble, and sometimes people get confused because the subtle body is more than just the inner organs, right? So these inner organs here is present as 4 functions, which is the mind, the intellect, the memory system, and the ego. That's the way I like to bring it. So some people would say yes, but the mind is not only associated with desires, but it's associated with thoughts and doubts. So we have the thought and the doubts that comes with the mind. So some people suggest that's better we call it the thought function, the emotional function, the intellectual function, the memory function, the ego function. Then we keep creating more inner functions of this mind. Okay, we have to, if we call them the emotional and the thought center, and then it's easier for us to call all the functions the mind. You understand? Right? Because the confusion people make is, oh, but you call it mind, but mind is the emotional aspect. It's thought, emotional aspect. The mind, mana, in Vedanta, is associated with emotion, desires, doubts. It is our emotional faculty. So this mana does more than just produce thoughts and emotions, which makes it a little bit more complex. It does also integrates all the all the sense stimulus, sense input. So the mind is going to receive through these 5 channels of the reception, and then we have the 5 sense coming in, and the mind is receiving. And as we know, when the mind receives, the mind could get really confused, because sometimes one experience, one contact involves 3 or 4 channels of reception. You can get an object that has a smell, that has a shape and a color, and makes noise. You understand? And and then you have only the 3. And then the mind says, oh, no, I cannot handle. I can just handle one at a time. You understand? So, and then the mind would just say, okay, now you can have one experience at the time. Claudio, you can either smell the same, see the same, or, or touch the same, okay? So no, the mind does that for us. The mind has this function of producing a thought of an object. We have a contact with the object, and that comes through the 5 organs of sense organs. And then when it does that, the mind does this incredible function of integration. It integrates the 5 sense stimuli coming. It integrates in one single experience. So there we have one experience, okay, involving different aspects of our sense organs, organs of reception. And then the mind dies, as it says here. It doubts. The mind is going to doubt. It's said here that the mind also desires. Yes, because the mind is our emotional aspects, and desire is an emotional thing. You are longing to experience something that gives you a positive experience. So, but most importantly, it doubts. It doubts, and we know that the mind, by nature, it get in contact, integrates all the stimuli, and then it integrates it in one experience, and then it says, and now what? What am I going to do? Okay, again and again and again and again, the mind does that. And now, what to do? And then we could say that the mind comes up with a solution. But if the mind, and to come up with a solution, it needs to go where? It needs to go to the memory files. Why? Because immediately the mind would have to address the situation and says, okay, I have had some similar experience, and let's look into my memory, okay? So she goes there and then looks around and then sees, okay, so we better do this based on my previous experiences. But we say that the mind, it mostly, it integrates, it doubts, and then it emotes. When we say that the mind emotes, because the mind is made out of this emotional energy, and it requires certain energy to put in motion. Emoting means to put in motion, a response. As we know, we need rajas, we need energy to respond. And in this case, the response is an intellectual decision. Okay, it's not physical yet, but it needs energy. So it needs some sort of emotion, something that moves it to decide. And then this mind that begins with integrating and doubting, and then it provides the intellect energy to decide, to determine, to discriminate, to discern, and come up with a response. Yeah. So why we say that it is the buddhi, the intellect, that decides or should decide? Because the mind is too doubtful. So the mind is too emotional. We know, we have the experience of responding emotionally to situations, and usually it's trouble when we respond emotionally. We get in some sort of conflict. So people who somehow bypass the internet, the internet or the intellect, and they do so in a way that they offer emotional response, not clear intellectual, processed, discriminated response. They just respond emotionally, according to what? According to my desires and aversions and fears. So people who respond only emotionally are only moved by desires and aversions. So it's said that there is another function in the subtle body, which is not the mind. The mind is too volatile, too emotional, too doubty. There are minds that somehow have even difficulty to present the question to the intellect. The person is there and never really properly discriminating and making a choice. And the person may be there on the fence between the emotional aspect of the subtle body, the mind, and the intellect, and never coming up with a final decision. Now, it has to be presented that connection, that interaction, that contact that has produced integration, a feeling, questioning, doubting, and then it has to be passed on to the intellect, and then the intellect is going to respond. So the intellect is more fine. It's in the chart, it appears up there because it's subtler. It's the most subtle aspect of the subtle body. So the intellect has much more sattva than the emotional aspect of the subtle body. So we want the intellect to receive. It's like a Supreme Court. It should not be corrupted Supreme Courts. It should be a clean and transparent Supreme Court. And then what the mind does, it does just present it to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court is going to look into all the files, look into all the laws, and so on. And then it's going to come with a decision, and knowing that there is room for mistakes. We know in the USA there is death penalty, and it's a common fact that mistakes were made in the past and people were killed and or kept in prison for 20, 30, 40 years, and by mistake. Understand? So the intellect is not absolutely free from making mistakes, especially if the Supreme Court is as corrupt as in Brazil, for example. You guys know nothing about Brazil, but it's unbelievable what's happening here. So the intellect should make this decision, and it's going to use whatsoever knowledge of previous past situations to come up with decision. And we have that. We have mana, we have buddhi, the intellect, we have chittam, which is the memory, and then we have the ahamkara. So this ahamkara is very interesting because, again, here it is removed from the intellect. You understand? So sometimes some of our texts do not split it For example, in the Viveka Shuddhamani, Shankaracharya does not separate the intellect from the ego. He calls the intellect the ego. So because the ego is there, I'm taking decision. But then again, someone a little bit down there claims the decision of the intellect and they say, I am the one deciding, I am the one discriminating, I am the one determining, and I am the one presenting a response through the organs of action. It is the aspect of the intellect that is going to claim and take vanity or involvement as a doer, of decider, of the discriminator, you understand? And this is very subtle. So, but I can understand why our scriptures presents it that way, because we know that if we let the intellect do its job, it does not take any pride or shame. You understand? Something else will take the pride and the shame. And what's going to take is something a little inferior, in the sense that it's not as intelligent or sattvic, that is going to claim, now I am the one deciding and doing and so on. So that's why we have the ahamkara, that it is the intellect associate with the mind, associate with the memory system, that is going to come, the intellect is going to decide, and this sense of doership, ownership, is going to say, yes, I am the one presenting a response here. So now, what is this ahamkara? I mean, it's very difficult to put a finger on it, because we understand the intellect making decisions, but where this ahamkara comes from, why this guy takes, possession of something that is part of an intelligent system, involving the three bodies and many aspects of the physical, subtle, and causal body. Why this entity is going to claim that I am the one doing, saying, speaking, doing, acting, deciding, originating the thoughts, originating everything, So this is the famous ego or ahamkara, that this I am the doer sense, that is very, very common in the Anyanis, and it's very, very densely common among them. And as one understands and assimilates this Vedantic spiritual knowledge, even on the Karma Dhamma Yoga level, it's easy to understand that there is a higher power doing all of that. And the intellect, which is the best representation for the Jivatma, because it is where consciousness through Sattvaguna shines the best and the most. It is in the intellect creating the Jivatma. So the Jivatma, which is the best representative of the of the Sattva body, this intellect, it's there. And in the case of the one who is wise, it's not going to come up with that level of identification as the doer or claiming ownership of the discriminating process. And this is very fine. It's very, very fine, because the discriminating process is there, and it's even more efficacious, efficient. But to the degree that this I am doing sense is diminished, you understand? It becomes much more fine without the vanity or the preoccupation of the I sense that is always having to do with the expectation of vanity and the fear of blame. So it is this expectation which derives from this identification as the originator of the process and the action of responding. And this preoccupation due to this wrong identification that compromise the ability, the faculty. One discriminates not. One does not discriminate as well if that disturbing identification is present, because I'm all the time concerned. Okay, I'm going to be proud of myself, or oh my God, I'm going to be ashamed of myself. So this preoccupation is compromising our intellect. So the more we understand Ishvara and the complex, the body-mind complex, and the way all of that is operated, the least our ego is stupidly, claiming and suffering, the claiming of being the main protagonist in everyone experience, and then the intellect works better, and there is a sense of freedom from that which we cannot really control, and then the intellect relax. Yes.
So this kind of makes me have a different thought than my normal understanding, that usually I think of karma and upasana yoga as purifying the intellect, etc. And then one has to kind of, in karma yoga, you kind of relinquish the karta bhokta area to Ishvara. And so now, does that mean also in those yogas that you relinquish the intellect to the scripture? So in effect, it's a different renunciation for each part of the antakarana. It's kind of, you renunciate the doer and the enjoyer, and then you renunciate the thinker as well, in a way.
You renunciate the thinker as well. Yeah.
The knower. Yeah. Through the Shastra.
Yeah, the thinker and the deciding factor, all of that needs to be, understood within Ishvara, because the intellect, the ego, let's say, is there to do its functions, which is to determine and to offer a response. So what is a wise intellect? Is a wise intellect is the one that understood that our response will never be absolutely correct, because there is room for mistakes, okay, to rajas and tamas operating in our constitution. And then knowing that one is already free from the assumption that one can become a perfect karta or bhokta, you understand? So just imagine how liberating it is. I will never be perfect as a jiva. And then that by itself can only be done if we understand that the whole system is perfect, and Ishvara is going to present my response according to my karma, according to the wisdom that so far I have gained. And then if I make mistakes, or if I respond inappropriately and so on, I know that it's all Ishvara, in the sense that it is my prarabdha karma, it is where I am. So it frees the jiva on that level, to relinquish this word that Lynn has used, that I'm having trouble to repeat right now. So relinquish. You relinquish the jiva in Ishvara, at the same time freeing the jiva in Ishvara, but never making the jiva to assume a fatalistic position in which there is nothing I can do. You understand? Because when you really do Karma Yoga, Vedantic Karma Yoga, you want to develop this understanding about Ishvara, and this relationship between Jiva and Ishvara is the key. So the Jiva understands that the whole system, and the Ishvara is feeding the whole system, but I am also contributing with my actions and my processing, my actions and my decisions, you understand? And I know that decisions are going to be under pressure by my own ignorance, my causal body, my vasana load is going to be influencing, but I have decided consciously to submit my mind to the scriptures so that gradually, I can relinquish, okay, my sense of doership into Ishvara, but never giving up my free will, never neglecting my responsibility, because we were giving free will, which is a big responsibility. And we need to know how to navigate in life, making a proper exercise of this free will, but understanding that our efforts, our determinations, and our actions is one among many other factors operating simultaneously. So this is almost freedom for the jiva. That's why sometimes we say that Karma Yoga can free the jiva. I mean, maybe 70, 80, or 90%. You understand? Because now you understand your role. You may still think that that this is somewhat real, but at least you know how to operate, you know how to navigate, you know your role, you know your position, you know the part you play in this big picture, in this big system. And then the mind, the intellect, is still doing what it's doing, but under the intelligence of Ishvara as the entire system. So this is what I usually say. It's understanding the relationship, resolving the mind, the intellect into Ishvara means to say, so the ego is there, and the ego believes and thinks that I have everything on my shoulder and I am the one and I can make it happen, I can make it work and go and do it and so on. Yeah? We get it from the culture. So now the ego is in trouble because he slowly in life, he understands that he's somehow helpless as far as controlling one's experience. You understand? So now when he understands this karma dharma body of knowledge, and then his sense of I as the one who receives and does is properly resolved, because it has integrated the system, the Lord, Ishvara, into the equation. So now I know that my Paramartha karma and my inner Sanchita operating, pressing my conscious mind, is a byproduct of previous births and previous lives, and previous thoughts and actions, and I'm doing my best. I'm doing my best, and I had the merit to come in contact with the revealed scriptures, and now I have brought God into my life. It's not that now I have God into my life, and I'm sure that I'm going to meet God once I die, because I have made some good connection and relationship, and I have been doing things so that God may save me. No, none of that. I brought life into my mind, in my life, so that I know that I'm doing what I'm doing, but I'm a small little thing in the big picture of Mitya, of the manifestation of Mitya as Ishwara Jiva Jagat. So I don't know anything else, Lynn, because you brought some very nice reflections there.
Thank you. Perfect. I just can't sometimes believe, the beauty of it all. It's gorgeous.
Yeah, it is amazing. Yeah, it is amazing. Vedanta is amazing. There's nothing like Vedanta. Sometimes I get irritated when I go for these seminars, and then I meet people, and I have unconsciously I'm expecting them to have understood the beauty of Vedanta as really, in fact, the end, the last stage in this process, And then I get people who are still around Vedanta for years, already around Vedanta for years, but still not able to understand the beauty, to have a real full value for this scriptural knowledge, because it's amazing. It's impeccable in its logic, in its reasons, analysis. And then when I hear people on the internet or different, oh yeah, it's Vedanta, God, oh, multiple gods, and so on. This is all, they don't understand the God that Vedanta talks about. They think that it's like these other religious gods. You understand? So the God of Vedanta is something amazing. People need to have a subtle mind and good punya, spiritual punya, to come to begin wrapping one's mind around the concept of God as presented by Vedanta. Yeah? A conscious, a self-conscious being made of knowledge, intelligence, knowledge alone. You understand? So the very body is just pure intelligence of everything. So it is a being, and the body of this being is pure sattva, pure knowledge. You understand? Of course, it's not visible to anyone, and of course, it's not subject to karma, because Ishvara does not have a body with emotional aspect to it, and then organs of reception, organs of action. No, none of that came into place. That comes into place when the Lord himself began mixing up the energies to produce the 5 elements, and then constituting a lot of living creatures. And all these living creatures are going to be subject to cause and effect, but he remains free from all of that as pure intelligence, the intelligence of the system. And Ishvara is going to pervade the entire Mitya, the entire universe, as the substratum of the universe, which is subtler than space, of course. Space comes out of Ishvara's cooking the elements and producing this basic element called space. It is amazing. And I'm glad that our small group, can see the beauty of Vedanta. It's not easy to find people who understand how amazing it is, how unique. So this ahamkara, the ego, is the I sense This is the self-identification with what? With all the functions of the subtle body, and plus all the functions of the physical body, and even identifies with the causal body in certain ways. In every level of our human experience, this I sense associates and claims to be that. So I am hot, I am cool, I am cold, I am this, I am that. So in every level, I am fat, I am tall, I am, any sense, any one of these levels, this I sense identifies with the process of human experience and brings about one eye on those levels. So this I sense associates or self-identifies with all functions of the body-mind complex, and takes the body-mind complex to be my mind, my physical body, and goes to the extent to say that my vasanas. When we get to Vedanta, we get to understand to Vedanta, we claim ownership even of the vasanas. Together, the subtle body is comprised of these 19 subtle organs. So we have all these 5 organs of action, 5 organs of reception, 5 physiological functions, the prana system, and then the mind, ego, memory, and the intellect. Together, the subtle body is comprised of these 19 subtle organs. The subtle body serves as our means for interacting with the external world. The experiencer can only contact the world through the subtle body, as each organ helps in connecting with a certain aspect of the world. Yeah, so we need this. We remember the 5 koshas. So when we look into the 5 koshas, we understand that we experience the world, our life history. We experience through the physical body. There is no doubt about that. We need the physical body. On the physical level, we experience the world and we collect data on that level. And then when we look at the physiological functions, the pranas, we also experience the world on that level. We contact. Without that, we cannot really have our experience. So the 5 physiological are going to say, oh my God, oh, I am undigested. Now I'm suffering indigestion, or I'm constipated, or I'm hot, oh, I'm freezing. Oh, my pressure is coming down. I am coming down. So we identify with all these experience. And then when we go to the emotions, oh my God, the identification is big, because somehow people tend to believe that emotions are something higher than the discrimination of the faculty of the intellect. Oh no, I have grown so much that now I don't care for discriminating. I just want to be an emotional person, to feel the world. So we have these things with the emotional level, and then the memories are going to comprise our history, which is who I am. When we go and then we meet someone, so who are you? And then we have to pull all those memories of all life event, the most relevant ones, to say, this is what I am, this is my resume. So the memory system, and then the intellectual aspect, the notions, concepts, all of these is the way I interact and experience the external world. The experiencer can only contact the world through the subtle body, as each organ helps in connect with a certain aspect of the world. Therefore, we develop what? We develop 18 different kind of identities through each one of these organs that belongs to the subtle body, okay? Generally speaking, we say that there are two emotional personalities to the jiva, emotional personality. In the mind itself, we have two emotional personalities, the one who acts and the one who receives. The artha, the karta, the one who acts out, responds with verbally or physically, and the one receiving, the bhokta, who is receiving the prarabdha karmas, one's life situation. But we can break down the artha, the karta, and the bhokta on different levels, because when we receive, for example, we receive an experience through different channels of our sense organ, but then we receive emotionally as well, So there are many ways that all these 18 organs determine our personality. That's why we feel our personality is changing from moment to moment, and we feel confused about who we are. So each one of these 18 organs helps in connecting with different aspects of our world and determining different personalities. Contact with the world is possible because of this link medium, which is the subtle body, which acts like a telephone. So now I'm curious. I want to know, what is this analogy of the telephone? I don't remember. The moment the telephone stops functioning, our contact with that part of the world is gone. So there is a channel of connecting the world, and one of these, if somehow stops working properly, we have trouble to contact the world. The sense organ of the eye, for example, enables us perceiving sight, colors, and forms. As we know, the blind, the eyes is huge. They say that most of experience, I read somewhere recently or a video that the eyesight is responsible for more than 50 or 60% of knowledge we gain. We depend on, I don't know how they did make that connection, that calculation, but it's easy for us to understand that the eye plays a huge role, in collecting data and as an organ of knowledge. So it says here that the sense organ of the eye, for example, enables us to perceive sight, colors, and form. For the blind person, this particular sense organ is non-functioning, and 1/5 of the world is non-existent to them. And as I'm telling you, I saw very recently, last week, maybe someone. It was a scientist that makes it not 1/5, not 20%, but more than 50% of the knowledge we collect depends on the eyesight. While the gross body is the abode of the experiencer, the subtle body is the instrument of connecting the physical body with the world. The gross body is dense because it's composed of gross matter, and the subtle body is subtle because it is composed of subtle matter, as we know. The gross body is readily visible and experienced by myself and others. The gross body is composed, it's matter. It's matter because it's mostly composed by a dominance of tamas, and tamas is what brings about physical material bodies. The gross body is being tangible to the eyes is visible and experienced by everybody, including myself, of course. Yeah. If we have a mirror, we can see the entire body at once. The subtle body is subtler because although it can experience itself, I mean, the intellect can, subtle body can experience itself. Why? The subtle body has something that we call, it reflects consciousness. Yeah? It's the reflecting medium, it's the mirror-like apparatus. When it reflects, it calls a reflecting function, or contemplating, reflecting. So the very subtle body can see itself because it sees through the intellect upon reflection. And reflecting is something that although you cannot see yourself by the means of perception, of sensory perception, you see yourself by inferential knowledge, okay, by the way you experience the world, the way your emotions come, the thoughts that flash in your mind, the actions that come out of your physical body. The subtle body can reflect upon, it has a reflective kind of function that allows the subtle body to see itself. Nah? So others cannot see, but others can see somehow a little bit, because we can observe others. And then we see, ooh, the subtle body of this or that person, it needs some work. Huh? We can come to that conclusion sometimes. The gross body is fully manifest. The subtle body is only partially manifest. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, the gross body is fully manifest, at least the outer part of the subtle body, the gross body. And the subtle body is only partially manifest. So I don't know what to say, what to make out of this statement of Swami. But the subtle body is, it manifests as our words and deeds. If we don't say anything, and then if we don't do anything, and then if we understand that there is something such as the subtle body that moves the physical body, and then we can infer the quality of the subtle body by inference, okay? So it is partially manifest, but it's manifest only in any case through the physical body. Why? Because unless somebody says something or do something, I cannot really see partially manifest the other person on the level of thought alone, because we can think anything and nobody will ever partially sense what we are thinking, fortunately. Yeah? So ultimately, it seems to be partially manifest with the help of the physical body. A final important difference between the gross and the subtle bodies relates to lifespan. The subtle body has a longer life than the gross body. Yay! The subtle body lives forever, forever, forever. As long as we want to live forever, the subtle body is going to live forever. When the gross body dies, the subtle body does not, and takes on another gross body. Oh, not again here. I want to go somewhere else. It takes another gross body. It continues to take on a succession of physical bodies until the resolution of the manifest universe, until the universe goes to sleep, and then, only then, we have a long, deep sleep. Otherwise, we have short, long sleeps between one body and another body, and we are back into the samsara. Yeah? But here, Swami P did not mention that it continues to take on a succession of physical bodies until the universe disappears in pralaya, or until the Jiva Atma gains self-knowledge and somehow one's desires and fears and aversions and desire for continuity, it dissolves, those vasanas dissolve. And then it's said that the subtle body dissolves itself into the mind of the creator. Okay, so it becomes the universal mind, but that is only possible by the means of self-knowledge, which is the knowledge of one's ultimate nature as Brahman, yeah? Or limitless consciousness. Okay, so we stop at pralaya, the death and the subtle body. We carry on next week. Next week we go for the same times. Monday we go for the Panchadas, and then Thursday we carry on this one plus the Q&As. I'm glad we did it because it ended up being a nice satsang talking about the famous ahamkara, the ego that it's so difficult for us to see, you know. In our subjective reality, we more easily we see our emotions, more easily we see our thoughts, more easily we see, you know, the memories. We even reflect upon the intellect, but when we talk about this sense of ownership, it's somehow, you know, a little bit difficult to understand where it comes from, why it comes from, you know, why this identification that caused so much trouble. No? We can talk about that next week. I'm sure Aline is going to have good insights as well. Okie dokie, good to see you. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, my friends. Arrivederci. Namaste. See you on Monday.
Thanks, Linda.
Thanks.
Thank you, Ma.
Namaste.
Thank you, Lord. Namaste. Thank you, Lynn.